Caitlin Clark just got a warning shot fired across her bow. And this one didn't come from the league office. It came from a journalist who's been covering her every move all season. The message was blunt, it was public, and it cuts right to the heart of the tension building around the biggest star in the WNBA. She's 2 technical fouls away from a mandatory 1-game suspension. She just told reporters she's not changing a single thing about how she plays, and now analysts are lining up to tell her that if this blows up in her face, she's got nobody to blame but herself. Let's set the stage. Saturday night, Indiana Fever host the New York Liberty. Caitlin Clark and company blow the doors off New York, 108-88. Should be a feel-good night, right? Fever climbing back into playoff position, star player rolling. But buried in that win is the 6th technical foul of Clark's season. 6. The number that matters here is 8. Once she hits 8 technical fouls, the WNBA rulebook doesn't care who you are or how many tickets you sell, it's an automatic 1-game suspension. And every technical after that, the 10th, the 12th, comes with the same penalty attached. Clark is sitting at 6 with roughly 18 games still left on the schedule. Do the math. She has 1 bad night, 1 blown call, 1 moment where she loses her cool for half a second, away from watching her own team play without her. So naturally, reporters asked her about it. Point blank, are you going to change your approach? Are you going to tone it down to protect yourself from a suspension? Caitlin Clark looked at them and said no, shook her head, didn't blink. That's the Caitlin Clark we've watched since Iowa. She plays with an edge, she argues calls, she lets referees know exactly what she thinks in the moment. It's part of what makes her must-watch television. But it's also exactly what's put her on this collision course with her own league's rulebook. And that's when James Boyd of The Athletic stepped into the conversation with the line that's now spreading across the internet. Boyd posted that it's admirable. Clark refuses to change how she shows her emotion on the floor. But he followed it with the punch. If she gets suspended, she doesn't get to complain about it. She knows the rules. She knows the risk. And if that suspension ends up hurting her team down the stretch, that's on her. Read that again, because it's not a throwaway hot take. This is a credentialed, respected NBA and WNBA reporter essentially telling the face of the league. You don't get sympathy on this one. You're not a victim of the officiating if you already know exactly what triggers the whistle and you keep doing it anyway. That's a different kind of criticism than what Clark usually gets. It's not the refs are out to get her. It's not she's being targeted because she's the biggest name in the sport. It's an accountability check. And accountability checks aimed at Caitlin Clark hit different because for 2 years now, the entire national conversation around her has been about whether she's getting too much attention, too much benefit of the doubt, too much protection from the league. This take flips that script completely. Boyd is saying the opposite. She's not getting special treatment. She's earning these calls fair and square, and pretending otherwise after the fact isn't going to fly. Now here's where the stakes get real, because this isn't some struggling team with nothing to lose. The Indiana Fever opened this season ugly. They stumbled, they scuffled, national media was writing them off. But over their last 10 games, this team has completely flipped the script, going 7-3, climbing all the way up to 16-10, tied for 6th place in the standings. And who's been the engine behind that turnaround? Caitlin Clark. Over that same 10-game stretch, she's averaging 21.2 points, 7.7 assists, 3.1 rebounds a night, shooting better than 45% from the field. This is not a slump. This is peak Caitlin Clark, playing the best all-around basketball of her professional career at the exact moment her team needed her most. And then there's the number that made the whole league stop and take notice. Against the Seattle Storm, Clark didn't just have a good game. She had a night for the history books. 45 points, 10 assists, 2 rebounds, 4 steals, 2 blocks. She shot over 61% from the field and 60% from three-point range in the same outing. 45-10. Nobody in the history of the WNBA had ever put up a 40-point, 10-assist game before Caitlin Clark did it that night. Franchise record, league record, the kind of performance that gets replayed for years. So picture the whiplash here. This is a player playing out of her mind, carrying a franchise back from the brink of irrelevance into playoff contention. And she is simultaneously 1 whistle away from being benched by her own league for a game that could decide whether Indiana makes the postseason at all. That's the drama. That's why this warning from Boyd isn't just noise. If Clark picks up technical number 7 this week and number 8 a few games later, and the Fever go on to lose that suspension game by a possession or 2, and they miss the playoffs by exactly 1 game, every single person in that organization, every fan, every analyst is going to be replaying this exact stretch and asking whether 6 months of emotional outbursts on the court cost this team its season. and Clark's own head coach knows it. Stephanie White stood in front of reporters after the New York game and didn't sugarcoat it. She said she wasn't demanding an explanation from Clark in the moment. She understood it was a reaction to a call or a no call in the heat of competition. But she made it clear there are going to be conversations, real ones. White specifically pointed out that Indiana has crucial games coming up on the schedule, and she wants her players, Clark included, to be strategic about how they spend their technical fouls. That's coach speak for, we cannot afford to lose you right now, so think before you react. This is where it gets bigger than just one player's temper. Because Clark isn't the only star dancing near this line. Angel Reese over in Atlanta leads the entire league with 7 technical fouls, meaning she is 1 foul away from a suspension of her own, and her Dream are tied with the Fever in the standings fighting for that same playoff spot. Kalia Copper is right behind both of them with 6. The WNBA set up this rule to stop stars from constantly working the referees. But right now it's turning into a ticking clock hanging over the 2 most talked about players in the league on 2 teams that are neck and neck for a playoff spot at the exact moment the season is heating up. And Clark isn't hiding from any of it. She's addressed the technical fouls directly with reporters, explaining that in the moment against New York, she was simply reacting, yelling for a call she felt should have been made, and admitting the technical came fast. No apology, no walking it back, no promise to change. Just an acknowledgement that it happened and a refusal to pretend she's going to play scared. That's exactly the mentality James Boyd is warning her about. Because the confidence that makes her must-watch television, the refusal to shrink, the fire that fueled that 45-point masterpiece, that same fire is the thing that could sideline her for a must-win game in August. So where does this actually go from here? Clark has 18 games to navigate a 2-foul margin while her coach begs for restraint, while an athletic reporter puts her on notice in front of the entire internet, and while a rival superstar in Atlanta is chasing the exact same deadline. One more slip, and the conversation shifts overnight from is Caitlin Clark the most electric player in the WNBA to did Caitlin Clark's temper cost the Indiana Fever a playoff spot. James Boyd already told her, in advance, in public, that if it happens, she doesn't get to complain. The receipts are already written. All that's left is to see if she proves him wrong or proves him right. If you think Clark should tone it down to protect the Fever's playoff push, or if you think she's right to play with zero filter no matter the cost, drop it in the comments. This one's splitting the fan base right down the middle. And if you want to stay ahead of every twist in this Caitlin Clark suspension watch, hit subscribe, because this story is nowhere near finished.